So what I'm going to show you today is going to be based on servicing your own equipment internally. So the way it's going to work is I'll show you how you can utilize it, as well as run through a couple of setup screens, as well as just go through a use case, an example that I can that you can follow. So as our focus is just to help companies increase the productivity and efficiency through fewer interruptions and critical operations by computing regular servicing intervals to help businesses retain compliance, health, and safety regulations, which is important. So from a preventive maintenance, I know there are quite a number of variations when it comes to the service or to the maintenance, which I'm also just going to cover. But this is built for scale and ease of use. So if you have been using our manufacturing module, you'll find that this will be a natural transition into that, because we are utilizing those manufacturing screens, as well as other information that has now been built in. So I'm not going to bore you with all these sales jargons, but when you're looking at keeping your assets running at minimal downtime, we're talking of a regular service schedule. We're also talking of routine checks. It could be emergency repairs where you just go straight and open a job ticket. And on the other hand, you might schedule the repairs. For example, if we look at a car, for example, you'd have service intervals of 15,000 kilometers, or it could be a photocopier, it could be any piece of equipment that you want to service. Then, and as well as we talk now, benefits from a customer, improved productivity, greater equipment lifespan, regulatory cost reduction, saves energy. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to bore you into detail. So if we look at the types of maintenance, we have reactive, where you do not want to, that's not where you want to go, where repairs are only done when the asset has already reached failure. And then there's the routine, where it could be checking, testing, lubricating. Then we go to the preventive, where you have to schedule those, like an example that I gave, to say every 15,000 kilometer. Or it could be a condition-based that you want to run to fail. You do not want to go there, because you do not want to let your machine run until it breaks down. Then when we come to predictive and prescriptive, this is where we're now talking of maybe including the sensors and all that. So we're just starting it simple in terms of how the preventive maintenance work is going to be. So in an overall picture, we're looking at where you can schedule your maintenance. There is the job ticket automatic release, which is coming from what has been scheduled, or it could be as a result of a meter or measurement reading. So you could have an equipment that has got a meter that you have to take the measurement, and then it triggers the job ticket based on the interval. Or you could go straight into the job ticket where you want to manually create for those unexpected, or like in your case, if a customer comes in and you want to open that job ticket, then that is now followed by job ticket tracking. Why job ticket tracking? Because it's as I've mentioned, it emanates from the manufacturing. So the concept of a bill of material, where you have, in this case, instead of building a product, you are servicing a product. So the top layer is your equipment that needs to be serviced, or it is the service. For example, if it's a 15,000 kilometer service, or it could be a 30,000 or 45. Then underneath you have the components that needs to be used, the spare parts. Then after that, you then have what we call the job ticket tracking, where you are now comparing against what you had budgeted to say, for probably servicing, you need 2 liters of oil, but when you do the actual service, did you use the 2 liters? Maybe you ended up using more. Then you also have extensive reporting with also the SEI, Sage Enterprise Intelligence. It extends the reporting capabilities. Then on the other hand, we have equipment management, resource management, components management, the maintenance task management. This would have been similar to what you see when you do when you're doing the manufacturing, which is the step-by-step of what you want to achieve. It will be clear when I use the example of the air condition that we're going to use for our use case. There is also the technical sheet. It's not compulsory to use it, but in some, it's almost like you want to do like a QA after you are done with the service. Then you just go and tick whether it has been okay and so on. We also have the non-conformance management. In the event that the job was not done satisfactory, then you can invoke that non-conformance management. But if you look at there, you can start off from scheduling your equipment, where you say, is it going to be serviced after every 30 days, 60 days? Is it once a year service and so on? Once we've done that, there is the automatic job. So they will come in as suggested job tickets from the automatic job ticket release. From there, you can view, and then for you to start working on them, you have to release those suggestions. Then it creates your job ticket where you can start working on there, or you can just start off from a job ticket. After job ticket, you do the tracking, you do the job ticket close where it calculates, you do your work, your finalization of the work in progress, then it does your posting to the GL. Then under your technical data, you have your product category. So we are utilizing the existing information that is in the product. So similar to how you have your different product categories, you now have a category which is a service category, which will be catering for that service, the items that you're going to be servicing, which are not part of your inventory or your stock. Then you have your products, which will then be a service product, as well as your components that you're going to be utilizing. The service side, similar to how you're utilizing. Then the product cost is initially you would put in, for example, on the components to say, for you to undertake this job, this is the cost that I'm putting onto there. The top part of what's going to be serviced is a calculated field, so it filters through from the components that you have, as well as the labor component and the machinery, if you're going to be using any machinery to do the servicing. Component list, you're looking at the spare parts that you're going to be using for the service. Maintenance task is the task that you're going to be doing when you are doing the service. This will become more clear. Then we have the equipment, which is what you want to service. Equipment is linked to your maintenance task. Your maintenance task is also linked to your component list. Then you have the resources. Those are the resources that are going to be working on the job with their qualifications. We also do the validation of the qualifications. There is a parameter. So in an event where you deem it to be strict, if the qualification is expired, that resource cannot be used if that parameter is on. Then you have the measurement setup. This is where you go and you set up your different equipment that you're going to be doing any meter reading so that job tickets can be triggered. Then you do your entering of the measurements for those type of equipment, but it's not really mandatory. It just depends on. So with what you've just seen, let's just go to the next. So here is just what each and every sort of component will do for you. So on the job ticket, you can do your repairs, you can replace, you can schedule, you can, if it's to do with remedy codes, you can also assign the materials onto there, as well as the resources that are going to be working on that. Then on your resource management, so you would have that linked to a job ticket. Then I spoke about the concept of the product and the BOM facility. Then we have a work center. A work center can either be the labor, or it can be that equipment that you're using, or where the costing dimension is going to come from. So as you are doing the job and you're utilizing a machine, you will set those different cost dimensions, which will then roll up as part and parcel of what the job is going to be costing. We spoke about the skills validation, the non-conformance. Then when would you use the preventive maintenance is if you have failure modes that can be prevented, not increased with regular maintenance. If you have likelihood of failure that increases with time or use, and if they are critical to production, operation, health or safety, and you want to maintain, where you are not able to use this preventive is where you have random failures, because with preventive you are scheduling, but you can also just start off with a job ticket. And where it does not serve as critical function, as well as if it's costly to repair more than to running it to failure. So as I mentioned, our use case is going to be an air condition that we're going to maintain. So when it comes to an air condition, these are the steps that you would actually, the checklist. So there is the changing of the filter. Why is it necessary? So here we have the change of the air filter, whereby replacing an air filter, I can lower your energy consumption by 5 to 15%.
Sorry.
So this checklist is actually what you're going to be putting as your the last step. So you start once you have done your tracking, then there is that particular what did I call it? If I can just go to this screen here with the summary.
Yeah.
So this is where you'll be ticking. So you'll be ticking those. Yes.
So this kind of similar functionality to the quality control aspect of the product, with that setting up that technical sheet that runs off the back of it.
So let me go straight into the product now, so that now we can relate to what I was showing you on the use case. So as you saw on there, we have the process. But before I go into the processing, I just want to start off with the technical data. So if we look at our product category, that's similar to your normal product category. Here, the only difference is that this is bought and this is manufactured.
So sorry, Alfred. So what can I just pause you there? So what we've got at the moment, we've got something called, was it the install base? So if you
the install base.
Yeah, have you come across that, Jonathan?
Oh yeah, the install base. Yes, it's when you've sold to your customers, and then there's the warranty. There's if they bring in the machines for repairs and yes.
So are we able to use that to filter through to the product categories, or?
The only difference with that one is restricted to your distribution side. Right. Whereas with this, it will be any equipment that you want to sort of. But this category, it is your products that you have in your stock. The only difference is that with this particular product category, it's non-inventory or non-stock. Because if we look at, for example, any other, for example, if we look at these buyouts, this can be bought, it can be sold, whereas the one that we were looking at, it's just on the service side. We are not tracking the quantities and all. Then if we look into the product, so it's a similar product. The only difference now is this product is now linked to that category. And if you go through here, you can see it's not managed. So this would not be the actual photocopier, but it would be the service for a photocopier. So we would also, like, for example, would actually name this, for example, 15,000 kilometer or 30,000 kilometers. So it's the actual service that you are doing. That's what you'd put in under product with the category of service. And then that same product, it's linked to your product site where you have your, again, it's still not managed. But what's really important on here is on the manufacturing side of things, we have what we call the standard cost. So this is what we are saying would be to maintain that. So you'd have your different costs that you specify there. Because this one is a calculated, you'd also have to specify the year that you are going to be using it for. So for example, when you set up, you'd have your different category, I mean, the different years that you'd have on there for what you're going to be. So what will be pulled from the work centers will be the labor, if you're using any machine cost, and also the components. And where do these ones all come from? Let me show you with an example. I mean, I went to the one that I wanted is not the PC, it's the AC. So if I can just filter that to preventive. So here you can see there is this air condition, the AC. If I go back to the product site and under the standard cost, so you can see that here the material is coming up to 2.2. So these are the components that are going to be used. Then you have the labor, which is that amount there, and then it rolls up to the top there of how much it's going to be costing to do those repairs. So how does this get populated in that? If we go back to our list, so we have here the component list. So if we click on the component list, we have the air condition, and then we are saying this is the air filter that we need to use. So that the spare part that we're going to use. If we look on the other hand, these are the components that we're going to use. So for your servicing, what you're going to utilize, this is the cost that would now go on to that standard cost. So you're just telling the system that for this job to happen, this component is going to be costing this much. So you put, let's say 50, but when you do the actual job, you then specify the hours and the quantities that you've utilized. Then it will now be comparing the planned versus the actual. Then it will show you if there are any differences and so. Then the next element is your maintenance task. Now this is where, if we go to that air condition that I was working on, here you specify in terms of it's available for use. Is it going to be tracked in hours or minutes? Then here we have the different steps. So the first one is to change that, tighten, all those. And we link each one with the type of the resource. So if we go into this resource, we can see that this is a mechanic, and this mechanic is linked to this. This is just for reporting purposes, the group. But you can see the skill set that I have. So this will be from 2. If there are any certificates that are attached to them, it will be recorded under here. And under the structure, this is where you can also specify to say this structure, are they working Monday to Friday, or are they working only I'll get to it from another window. But under here, you also have your costing dimension. So under your costing dimension, this is where you're saying to service that this is the amount that it's going to cost. Here, we don't put any setup times on it because that relates to a machine, if you are using a machine like in a manufacturing context. But here we just specify the costing dimension under the standard run. And then under the structure, you can see here there is it 8 times 5 hours, Monday to Friday, or is it, so it's just to give you this dimension. If let's say you've got a cost structure that is 5 times 8, and if you try and run the job ticket on a Saturday or during the weekend, you will get feedback message to say this resource cannot work on or during the weekend because it's not the the structure. So you can see here the type is resource under the resource. Then if we go a little bit further here, we can also see in terms of the proportionate, is it for 1? And then this is the planned time to say when we are doing our first changing of the air filter, we are probably looking at just running it we are planning for maybe for an hour. So this comes in as the planned, and then when you do the actual work, maybe you might run over and it will be 1.5. It will give you an idea of the true costing, to say you had budgeted for this, but it ended up being this. So this you only do during the initial setup, and you don't go back again and set it up. And the next thing is your equipment. So under your equipment, it will show you the history of the services that have happened. So when we're doing the schedule, this is where we take the product. Remember, I mentioned that the product is what needs to be serviced. Or if it's the 15,000 kilometer, here I just put it as a PKMS2. I'll go back and show you that. So here we can schedule to say we can either enter a single line, and then on there we can also specify. So like in this case, this applies to those that you say after every 90 days or after every 30 days or which are time-based or calendar-based. This is where you schedule. And this will be based on the lifespan of the equipment. So once you've added a single line, you can then multiply to say for how long does it. So it will give you the start and end date of that. So let me just put PM here, SK02. So for example, once you have done this, okay, let me put it wants me to go all the way. And then when you are here, oh, it wants all this information. Let's say this one is starting from today, and then maybe up to, okay, let me leave it for now. And then the frequency will be when it has to happen. So let's say this one is going to happen, let's say every 30 days. So instead of going and scheduling for all that, you can actually multiply. Oh, it wants me to finish the whole line. So what will happen is, let me just save this here and go back. So here you can now go and choose multiply tasks. So this is to say, this is the start and the end, and then the frequency in days. So once you've done that, it will then add all these lines up to when that equipment needs to be serviced. So if it's a 5-year, if it's for 5 years and you have said after every 30 days, it will also give you that information now based on what you've entered on that equipment. And this is seen by the dates that you have on here. To say, you can see here, this was the first, and then it starts changing up to the 16th, and it starts changing based on the frequency that you specify on there. So this is only for the machinery that you want to be part of the preventive that you schedule well in advance. Then on the other hand, you have things like your, let's say, a photocopier where you have to go and you take measurements. So here you can specify to say, this is the site, this is the type of the setup, then the units as well as the intervals. So when we put this interval, it means that when we do any measurement, and if it's 300 or above, it triggers a job ticket for you to work on. So if, let's say, you've done these measurements, taking of the measurements for, let's say, 3 times, but it's still not adding up to 300, it will only trigger a job ticket once it has reached the 300. So then what will happen is it will then give you these sort of work in progress numbers when it triggers a job ticket. Then what will happen is, if we, now that we've gone through this, we'll do an example where we can start off with we can either go directly to a job ticket. We'll also do a measurement, and we'll also, so if we go to the automatic, here we've got jobs that are suggested. So the jobs that are suggested are the ones that you would have taken a measurement. Then the ones that are planned are the ones that you have put in under a schedule to say after every 14 days, 15 days, and so on. So you have different views. So like here on job ticket suggested, if I click on view, you see all the job tickets that needs to be scheduled. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do capture something so that you can see it. Maybe before I capture, let's just go under the history, just so that I don't go backwards. So if we look at, we can see that here it's the last measurement was 400. So what I'm going to do is to capture. Oh, sorry, not here. So here I'll select the site that I'm working on. Here it's not necessary to select unless if you want to filter. In this case, because I've got one, it'll just bring in that particular one. So here you put in the measurement. Let's say this was 305. We already know that it's above that threshold. So the moment we click on OK, and then we go and just check under here what has happened under the last line. So you see this 305. Has it done anything? You can see, yes, it has triggered a job here, which is this. If it was something low, it was not going to trigger. So if we look at this particular 339, if we go back to our automatic release and then we look at what has been suggested and then we view, we'll notice that this will be the last one. There are 2 pages here. So it will be the last one that has been suggested. So that's how it triggers the job and then for it to be available. And then when we are ready to have it on a job ticket or to create a job ticket, I'm just going to do this so that I can use it to filter. So to trigger that, let's say I go on here on suggestion. And then when I click on OK, it's going to change it from suggested to planned. So I'm just going to filter by that particular. Let me just do this here to that. If I view, you can see it's that particular job that we've created today, or the measurement that we took that triggered a job. And then I'm just, this time instead of just viewing, I'm going to do the OK. So once we click on OK, what it will then do is it will go and create a job ticket, but it will be planned. So on a job ticket, we have different, we have planned, and then we also have firm. So if we look at today's one, it is the one at the top, which has got this date you can see from here to there. And if we look at this product, this is the type of the service that we are doing for a machine service. If you go further down, you can see that this is the component that it's going to be using. And this is the task that we're going to be using. So this is triggered. What I also want to show you now is if we were to start off a new job ticket, let's say this is a customer that has walked in and we want to start off a new, let's say this was a breakdown. Then the status, we're going to put it as planned. Product, we're going to put a C, I think it's AC001, that's that air condition. And what we're planning is just the one. So everything else will come from there. Once we specify our our date, let's say the end date, let's say it's today's date. And then as we move further down, you can see that this is the component we're replacing the air filter. Even though we are replacing the air filter, we're also going to do some other tasks, which are to change that air filter, which is that one. Then we're also going to check the thermostat and all those different components. So we're going to create the job ticket now. And then once it has done that, it will allow us to print. This you can also change the format if it decides to to finish. Let me just open this. So here you can see the breakdown of what is happening. We have this is the filter, the air filter, which is coming off the amount that is from the inventory side, or what we are planning it for. Then we have at the bottom we have in this case is the quantity. Then we have the total job cost there, which is showing as this, because there's also the tech. So if you look at the tech, there is the 250. Remember, I went and I showed you the 250 from the setup, the cost dimension, because this mechanic is that resource, which is MEC, which charges 250. And then we also have another mechanic, and their runtime, they work for 2.75. This is just for an hour, and then this is the amount. So it all adds it up onto the job. Then what will happen next is, let's say we now want to proceed with this job. What we would then do is to change this from firm to, from plan to firm. And then once we click on the save again, this time it's going to allow us to also have a material slip for picking that. So what it has done is, let me show you what it's actually printed. So here you can, this will just be a list of the what it was printing when it just bombed out there. It was the picking ticket to pick this particular air condition, not air condition, the air filter, which is only the spare part. So the next thing that we're going to do is to allocate. You can see here nothing is allocated. So we click on the allocation, and then it allocates that particular stock. If you look now, I'm allocating my stock or the spare parts. Once the allocation is taken place, I can then go and do my. So if I look at my status, you can see that this is what we are servicing. This is what we have planned, and this is what needs to happen. So only when you've done the tracking, this is when it will then start showing. So if we now go to job ticket tracking, this is where we are now saying initially we wanted to work with the, so it will be the one at the bottom there with today's date. So here it will bring everything. So for example, where we had said we are working for, it's only going to take an hour, or it's only going to take this time, we now put in the actual times that has taken place for servicing. Let's say in this case everything was the same. We did not change any. What will then happen is when we do this tracking, it will go and deduct that's the spare part, as well as allocate the times that we took to do the job. So if we look under status now, you will see that it shows that this has now been serviced. We utilize this as a spare part, and then also we took the same amount of time that we had budgeted when we were tightening the connectivity, cleaning the evaporator, when we did the inspection and all that. Then what will be left from here is from here you can also see that this is where you can either do the technical sheet, which is like your checklist that you were talking about, or we could create the non-conformance for resources or for the process. If we go to the technical sheet, this is where you would put what you were mentioning there as a checklist of what has happened, almost like the quality control. I just put in just a simple example here. Once this has happened, you cannot then go back and change anything on the job. So what will happen is if we had not done the technical sheet and then we had gone to just view the technical sheet, you would actually see that there'll be a record that is sitting on the technical sheet. But if you were to just go and do the technical sheet, you will not then find it. So if I were to go in here now and search, you will see that these are different jobs that do not pertain to the one that we did today. So you can see these are from before. And then what will happen as well is now you want to close the job ticket. So here you just choose the job ticket. In our case, it was the 41. And we are closing the job ticket. So what has now happened is if we were to just go and check here, you can see now it has removed it from the technical, because we said the job is closed. At this point in time, this is the missing part now, where you are saying now, when you close the job or when you do the finalization, instead of it costing internally, you want it to then populate those lines on a customer invoice. That's that is the missing piece. Here you could also do the finalization of the job. You can do it one by one or all together. I just want to show you a detail of what would have happened on here. So we're printing with the detail. You could also do the cost update. There was an option for cost update. This is where you would then be telling the system that based on the work that you've done, you now want to update your cost. So you can see this is now the top part was that air filter is we had forecasted that, and then we used the same amount, so there's no variance. And then on the machines as well, this was the time for this for the mechanic, and then it gives you the summary. So here there was no variance because we said everything was equal. So if for some reason they took more than the time that they were supposed to, then it would come with a variance on this report. So that's how you would actually go about it. Then we have information that also relates to, now that we've done the cost, the finalization, you now want the posting of the WIP, so that it goes onto the GL. Here I could have done everything, but I'm just showing you one at a time so that you can follow. So here it will then create the journals. So I'm actually thinking that maybe at this point in time, this is where it must create the invoice. But I think there are many ways that we can look at it if you decide to go with it, because that's the missing piece that's just missing. Because here, what this journal is just, it's just showing you that this is the cost that you have incurred in terms of when you did this job. But you want it, you want the reverse, you want it to be billed to the customer. Other things that are also linked to the standard system is if we go into the replenishment, it's what we'd call the MRP, the material requirement planning. So when you run the MRP, it's looking at your site to see what needs to be purchased. Or so this would be on the main stock side, where you now want to replenish those and maybe buy after a service, or you want to keep them in stock so that you don't run out. So once you've run this, what will happen is there could be either a purchase, or if we go into the planning workbench, you could, if you choose all, and if I choose the criteria here for, yeah, that's preventive maintenance. So there it looks at the spare parts that you have. Let's say you had a minimum and maximum that you need to have in the stock. So it will look at what you have, and if it's below the threshold, then it will suggest that you purchase this. So like in this case, you can see it's suggesting a purchase order, and from here you could actually automate it and create a purchase order automatically. If there were more than one items that belong to the same, you could do what we call the grouping, the grouping workbench. So it looks at all the components. Instead of creating multiple purchase orders to the same supplier, it would just create one and send, and then that will then follow the procure to pay cycle from there. So this is part of the standard system that you would have run. I mean, you would also do the same. It would come as a purchase order receipt. if those components need quality control, you'd actually go into the quality control screen. So what you see is anything that is flagged as quality control would be listed on this side. And then once you come on here, you now need to make sure that you do the quality control where you enter the details whether they are all the same. So that same technical sheet that you saw, it's the similar one that you'd see from this side for your quality control. Whereas on the other side, you're just using it as a checklist for the job that you've completed. Here you're using it for the receipt of or the receipt of the goods that are coming in. And some other useful information that you may want to see is like here we have the job. You can see the ones that are planned. They'll be all there. The ones that are ready to be executed, the ones that have already been executed will be in gray. You can also have those that are planned. So the planned will be the ones that are coming from the schedule, and then the one that are suggested will be the one that will go to that will be as a result of the meter reading. Then here you can also view some work in progress. So the last one that we did was the 41. So here you can see this is what we're expecting, and this is what when we did the tracking. So there was no variance. So this report is useful in that, let's say for your service, you're supposed to be using, let's say, a quantity of 5, then you only use maybe 4 or 3. Then this report will show that this is what was being expected to be used, but then the actuals were less than that. So you would have a positive variance here. Then you can even start checking to see why we have a variance, or it could be that the service, you did not anticipate the service to be longer than the time that it normally takes. So the technician ended up taking more time. So what will happen on there is there will be a variance. Then you also have things like that's just your equipment history. So it shows every time you have any service, it shows you so this relates to all the different components that you did. That we're busy trying to make sure that we can just summarize this so that it doesn't show you everything. And then this is the schedule, which is at the bottom, where we say after every this time there must be a service. These are the lines that will then come shown as planned on the automatic ticket release. Then this will material issue slip that just relates to the slips that you want to, or the spare parts that you want to issue for each job that you are executing. Then your job ticket, it will be the view of the job ticket. So some security that we've done here is once the job has been executed, you can't come and want to print. It will just print a blank screen or a blank page, so that you don't go and redo just for security purposes. Then this is just the GL posting, which relates to when it is posted. And this is where you now want the information, instead of it posting as an expense to, let's see if I have a filter for prevent. Yes, I have. So if we look at the one that we just did and then go to the lines. So here it's just showing the movement of the stock from the material, from the stock, work in progress and then the stock is credited. We would have expected some additional lines here to show that now it went to the accounts receivable, and then there was an income, that type of the information. it would be part of the journals that would come in your case. Another way would be you would use it the same way it is at the moment, and then invoice the customer the normal way. But if you want that automation, then they'll need to just tweak how the system is working. When we go back to the component list here,
yes,
for a normal service that you do, you'd already know the components that you're going to use. But we also have what we call an unplanned maintenance, where under the component product, you just specify the text. So what it means is, let me just try and show you this quickly on a job ticket. So because someone has brought in, it's an emergency, you don't know which components or spare parts you're going to use. So you want it to come in as so under the product, we will then use this which is the unplanned. So if we go further down, I mean, we'll still put the quantities and all that. Let me put the date as today. So the difference is now here, it will just come in as text. So even if we create this, it will still be as text, but there are no components that are there. And then if we go back to this ticket here, and then we have it as, which one is it there? 42. Okay, so it's showing as FEM there. What we then do is when we start working on the components, under here we can now have we can actually start including some unexpected material. So there it will then allow you to add in the components that you are using. And then you can, when you print, it actually excludes that text line that was at the top. So that's another way that you could have it working. Instead of pre-populating the spare parts that you're going to use, you can use one that is unplanned. Then you can, I mean, you have to label it the right way. Then here you just specify. So if, let's say I use the row 023 here, so it is still that item that I'm going to be putting in there, and then the quantity. And then if I click on OK, so it's now going to use that component for this service. And I can still add some other as well, component that I'm going to be using. So it gives you that flexibility, or you might have had some pre-populated, and then you now want to exclude the line from being serviced, I mean from being utilized. So let's say you have 5 components, and now you just want to make use of 4. Maybe you realize that during the service that one of do not need to be serviced or changed at that point in time. So it gives you that flexibility in the way that you're going to be working with the system.
Okay.
All right. I think that is